All right. Well, I am really excited. Thank you so much for being willing to do this webinar today and for being part of the series in the fall. It's really exciting to have your participation as well as George's then. So thanks.
Well, you're welcome. And I have to say that I'm really excited about it too. And I'm really pleased to be talking to all of you. I really am. And so, shall we get started?
Yeah, let's get started. So when I was thinking about the call with you, I was remembering my first meeting with you because, Linda, that was really such a huge shift. It was really a life-changing moment for me. And it was also a really great example of the power of understanding and the power of the principles. Because we had a conversation and that was it. And my understanding shifted, and it really, I'll say a little bit more about that for the people on the call, but up until that point, I had been learning about the principles, I'd been studying them, but I hadn't really had a deeper experience with them. Sorry, there's occasional technical things with the muting coming on. Anyway, I'll just keep talking, then I think my picture will come back on. So anyway, with the learning, I was seeing things and I was feeling different. My life was changing, things were different, but I was still not really, I still didn't really understand that it was just understanding and that there was no techniques, there was nothing else involved. And so when I went up to do that intensive with you, and we literally, I got off the plane, I'm in Pransky and Associates' office, an hour and a half later, we're having a conversation. And it was what you were saying to me, but it was way beyond what you were saying to me, what I was hearing. And it just shifted my sense of me being okay, because I really didn't feel, I walked in the office not feeling okay, feeling like you were going to fix me, that you were going to give me something that would help me to be a better person, to improve myself. That's what I went in with. And within an hour or so, that was all gone, and I was experiencing my okayness. Like I was just feeling it. And that was your consciousness. That was you sharing your grounding with me, and I was able to hear something. And the simplicity, the beauty, the elegance, like it was just so profound, and it stays with me to this day. That freedom that I really first tasted then. So I'm extremely grateful for that experience with you, but I'm also aware that it's the understanding, it's where you were coming from, and it's inside of every single one of us. And so today we just get to have the exploration of the understanding with you, with what you're seeing, and I really, wanted to, just acknowledge that this understanding comes from Sydney Banks and what he saw, and he shared that with you and the original teachers, and that's now being shared out into the world, and it's just like this exponential spreading of the understanding. But I think it's always lovely to go back to the source, and you had the incredible opportunity to learn directly from him, which I didn't have. So just wanted to share that as my introduction, and then to open it up for you to share wherever you'd like to start.
Well, I'd like to start with me too. In other words, I had the experience that you had with me, I had with Sid, and in different words, right? But the same understanding. And it was really interesting because we were walking into a room together, Sid and myself, and he was talking, and all of a sudden he says, even people in mental institutions sit in mental health, and they don't know it. And it was like somebody hit me over the head with a brick. I heard him. You know, Sid talks about hearing and hearing and seeing, you know, seeing and hearing from the intellect, and seeing and hearing from realization, which is a whole nother way of learning. And I realized my own mental health in that moment, and I didn't even know that I thought I was broken. But when I heard him, I went, oh my goodness, I'm not broken. I thought I was broken. And that's why I've spent all these years trying to fix myself, because I thought I was broken. I'm not broken, and there's nothing to fix. That was huge, because it took so many layers of doing off my mind. It's like I had to do me all the time. In other words, I had to be away and try and figure out how to be and how not to be and how I should be and how I have to be. I had to keep perpetually sorting myself out so I could look right, so I could be fixed, so I could look normal. And it took all of this thinking off my mind. It's like, there's nothing to fix. I'm not broken. So that was unbelievable gift. But I'm going to back up. I'm going to stop there and I'm going to back up to a bit to how I was before I met Sid. Because in retrospect, the reason I got into psychology and the reason I wanted to be a therapist is because I could not make sense out of me. I didn't make any sense to me. I didn't understand why I had the feelings and thoughts and experiences and moods that I had. I didn't understand what was happening to me. And I thought there was something wrong. So I was trying to figure out how to make that right. So I went into therapy. You know, I became a student in psychology, but I also went into therapy as a client. So I was coming at it two different ways, trying to understand myself. And it always looked as if I was getting there, because I was doing all these brilliant techniques and meeting all these amazing people and having all these amazing experiences. But at the end of the day, I still didn't feel like I'd gotten anywhere, because I still didn't, in my quiet moments, I still didn't make sense. And the gift that I got from Sid, besides that one, the realization that there was nothing wrong with me, is that Sid helped me make sense of life and make sense of me through the power of understanding. See, it wasn't therapy. It wasn't therapy. It was understanding. Now, here's what's really funny, is because when I first started listening to Sid, I didn't know how to listen to him. So I would listen to him through my intellect, and all I would get is confusion, because I was trying to figure out what he was saying, and I didn't get impact. So I didn't get anything. Everybody was getting impact and having these amazing realizations, and I was getting nothing. So that reinforced the fact there was something wrong with me, right? But the stubborn, persistent person I am, right? I just was like, I'm sitting here until I get what they have. I want what they have. You know, everybody was kind of popping in realizations that were sitting around me, and I was sitting there, nothing. Well, at some point, the penny dropped, and I realized that all of the doing in my intellect was in the way of hearing. That was my first insight, really, is that all of the stuff in my intellect that was going on, because see, I was trying to analyze what Sid was saying, and then I'd criticize what he was saying. And then I would try to apply what he was saying. And then I would get cynical about him. Oh, he's just repeating himself, or he's contradicting himself. So I had all of this thinking going on and I couldn't hear. And I realized that. I realized that I needed to listen. I didn't know how. I didn't know how. I didn't know how to listen except through my intellect. True listening was invisible to me. But it was interesting because when I found out when I realized what I was doing wrong, when I realized what I was doing wrong and I looked it in the face, I realized what to do that was right. Isn't that funny? So I realized what I was doing wrong. I truly realized it. All of a sudden, I start listening. Now, I can't explain that. I don't know why that is. But that often is the case when people look in the face of what's wrong and own it. It's like, yeah, it's wrong. All of a sudden, they become right. Isn't that interesting? That's a whole nother conversation. But anyway, so I started listening properly. And I mean, just taking in what he was saying without thinking about it, without analyzing it, just taking it in, taking him in. And I had the most amazing realizations. It's like, and in my vernacular, it would be like, I got a psychological map for life. I got a map, a psychological map. Within me, it was like, for example, I didn't realize how negative I thought and how much I believed in it. That was an insight. Now, after I realized it, it would be like I had this red light that would appear when I would get into negative thinking too much and my feeling would go down. It would be like this beeper. Back away, back away, back away. It just would occur to me in the moment. Back away, back away. You're getting too negative. You're getting too negative. That's what I mean by a psychological map. When I would get too analytical and start to get confused or stressed, same thing would happen. Beep, 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 back up, back up. So I would literally find myself backing away from thought and feeling that would create the experience I didn't want to keep producing. See, I realized that you can't help your first thinking and feeling. I mean, you can't control what comes into your mind, and whatever thought comes into your mind, a feeling comes with it. So you can't control that. That just happens. But what happens is that a thought and feeling comes into our mind, and then we start thinking about it. When we start thinking about it, we get almost get hypnotized by it. And then the feeling builds. And at some point, that feeling becomes a feedback system, and you realize, oh, I don't want that. So for me, for Linda Pransky, this is just what I do. And everybody has to find their own way. This is important. Find your own way. I'll talk about that later. But for me, it was all of a sudden I would get this, it was psychological beeper, like back up, back away from it, get away from it. And then I'd quiet down and my head would get clear and I'd kind of go back to square one, and back to what I would call a neutral mind. So I learned how to live in a neutral mind. In a neutral mind, there's clarity. When people have clarity, when they live in a neutral mind and they have clarity, it's like they access their creative process, they access nice feeling, they just see life clearly. And they take it one step at a time and they just know what to do. So this is what I mean by my psychological map. And that happened as a result of my listening to Sydney Banks. It's like he gave me so many gifts. I mean, he allowed me to make sense out of my life. So I stopped worrying about myself, worrying about how to do life and how to be in life. And because see, when you're in clarity of mind and in neutral, it's like you know how to do life. People know what to do when they're not all caught up in their busy mind or their insecure thinking, their emotional reactivity. They know what to do. They know how to live. They can access new thought. They can solve their own problems. They have their own answers. It's just they tend to people, see, I learned to look for my answers in the wrong place. I learned to look for my answers in what I already knew. I go, that's silly. But so whatever I knew, I would keep rehashing and rehashing, trying to find something new. Well, no, you find something new from a neutral mind, a not knowing mind. It's like thought and consciousness create something, a new form. It's like formless to form. That's how thought works. Formless to form, formless to form, formless to form, formless to form. So if you want an answer to a problem and it's not in what you already know, you have to go to not knowing, to an empty mind, to a clear mind, and allow the formless to formulate something new for you, and it will. That's what I realized listening to Sid. You know, we live in the principle of thought, and we use thought in many ways. We use thought intellectually, we use thought creatively. If we quiet our mind, we can use thought to come up with a new answer. We use thought to go back into our memories and torment ourselves with what we did wrong. See, that's another thing I learned not to do from Sid, because I was a big one about going into the past and trying to fix it. And I realized you can't go into the past and fix the past. The past is the past. It's memories, things that happen that you remember. It's not real anymore. It's just memory. But I would try to go in the past and live in memory to fix it and torment myself. And I realized, again, that's silliness. But I mean, I could go on and on and on with the insights and realizations that allowed me to live a life that was what word to say, mine, not somebody else's, or how I thought I should be, and become my own best friend and my own best counselor, because I can look within for answers. So I just, I learned so much from listening to Sid. And I think it's amazing that we have his recordings and his books.
It's beautiful, Linda. And what really, stood out to me in what you were sharing just now is how we just know. Mm-hmm. When our mind gets clear, we don't, the answers come to us and we get what we need for us. Like you got what you needed for you time and time again. And I get what I need for me time and time again. And that's true for every single one of us, that innate intelligence, that formless energy is available, and it's constantly creating for us, mm-hmm. through us.
Right. And the trick is, here's the trick.
Tell us the trick.
Is that, see, you can understand all of this intellectually and it doesn't count. You have to realize it. And realizing it is something you can't do. You can't, see, that's why people want, well, how do I do this? There is no doing. There's realizing. And people can realize, but you can't control it. People want to control it. Well, when's my next insight? Or when's my next realization? Or how do I get there? Or how? And we as human beings are wired up to have insight, have realization. We just are. It's part of who we are is to have realization. And we're our own worst enemy in getting in the way of that. Because we desire it and we get needy about it and we try to think ourselves into it.
And I get impatient. I recognize that when I can get impatient.
Because Sid said to me, because went through, I mean, there's so many stages I went through with learning this. And one of them was, it's like, God, my insights have stopped. And I get greedy for my next insight. Where's my, so I said, Sid, I'm like, Sid, I'm not having insights. And he says, look, if you want to have insights, you have to be grateful for what you have. So of course I would try to be grateful. Well, guess what? Trying to be grateful, right? Nobody can try to be grateful. You have to be grateful. And when you are grateful, then you don't care if you have insights. Because you live in the feeling of gratitude. I mean, that's essentially what is. If you live in the feeling of gratitude, you don't really care what your life looks like or what happens, because you're living in this beautiful feeling of gratitude. So you don't care what happens. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, the irony of it. But one of the things that I really saw from our conversation was the ability to accept the trying to be grateful part of me, the insecure, like getting caught up in insecure thinking. Like I had such a wrestle and struggle with whatever wasn't really authentic realization, but I felt like I needed to eradicate that. But when you talk about that psychological map, like it's like it helped. My psychological map included being okay with all of that and not having that be a problem when I'm eager and greedy or whatever it is.
Yeah. See, one of the people say to me, sometimes people say, well, given that you've had all these realizations after all, because I've been involved in this, since I was like 26 years old, is when I met Sid, fortunately. In other words, I was only struggling with myself and trying to fix myself for like 8 years. So I was one of the lucky ones that was a seeker trying to fix themselves. It was only 8 years, but in that 8 years, I mean, I really plummeted. My spirits plummeted. And I'm going to get to the topic of human frailty, but I'm going to tell a story first. It's like one of the best stories I had with Sid was that this is when I first started listening to him. I was struggling with my relationship with George, and I was struggling with my happiness. I was getting less and less happy, and I couldn't understand. The more I got into therapy and the more I got into psychology, it's like I was getting less and less happy. It had that feeling of happiness less, and I was like very puzzled by that. I didn't understand. And then also what I didn't understand is how my boyfriends, I get with a boyfriend, it'd be great, and then it would totally suck. I couldn't understand why it would go downhill. So I was on Salt Spring, and there was this restaurant called the Crest Restaurant. It no longer exists, but it's very vivid in my memory. And it was the nicest restaurant in Salt Spring at that time. And this was in like 1970, like 1978, 1979. And so I saw Sid at the restaurant. He was by himself. And it took so much courage for me to go over to his table and ask him if I could talk with him. I don't know why, but it just took every ounce of courage I had. And he was a really nice man. So, it was like, he was a really super nice man. But for whatever reason, I just had to drag myself over there and ask him if I could talk with him. And then it took every ounce of courage I had to confess to him that I wasn't happy anymore. I said, Sid, I used to be happy. I'm not happy anymore. And he said, and I was waiting for this really profound conversation about happiness or unhappiness or something. So he says, well, dearie, he always, I say, well, dearie, do you remember the feeling? Do you know the feeling of happiness? I said, oh yeah, I know it. I remember it. He says, do more of that. I'm like, that's it? I didn't say that out loud, but I'm like, that's it? I'm like, because I expected something different. Okay, so I settle down as best I can. And then I say, well, I said, oh, okay. And I said, I have another question. He says, okay, what, you can ask your question. And I said, well, my relationship with George is really bad. In fact, I'm thinking of leaving him. In fact, I'm really actually getting ready to leave him. Because it's just, I don't like him anymore. And he says to me, well, did you used to like him? I said, yeah. He said, did you used to enjoy his company? I said, yeah. He says, well, do you know that feeling of enjoyment when you're with him? I said, yeah. He says, do more of that. And I'm like, my mind is going nuts because I'm like, that's your intervention? That's all you're going to say about it? And so but I had so much respect for him that, I just, kind of sucked it up and thanks, Sid, thank you so much. And I left the table and I walked out of the Crest Restaurant. And all of a sudden in the distance, halfway between the Crest Restaurant and my car, the penny dropped and I went, oh my word, he's right. And I had two massive insights. The first one was, you put the cart before the horse. It's like this voice is talking to me. You put the cart before the horse. You think you have to fix yourself to find happiness. If you wait to fix yourself to be happy, you're going to die before that happens. You have to get happy and then fix yourself. But what that meant to me was you have to be happy in spite of what's wrong. You have to be happy in spite of what isn't fixed. You have to be happy in spite of what you think isn't working in life. You just have to be happy, period, and let the rest of it sort itself out. And then the next insight I had was, well, of course, if you want to have a successful relationship, you have to enjoy the person more than you criticize them. Because I realized I had gotten into criticizing and looking at what was wrong with George and trying to fix him. And of course, if you're looking at what's wrong and trying to fix a person, you live in the feeling of what you're doing. So I was living in this bad feeling about George and blaming him, but it was my thinking. So I realized that all I had to do is enjoy him more than I criticized him, and I could have a good relationship. It was so simple. It was so simple. But the thing is, I saw it. It wasn't an idea. I literally saw the truth of it. I saw the truth. Of course, you have to be happy in life in spite of problems or what you don't like or what you don't have. You have to be happy and then do what you do. You can't wait to get it together and then be happy. It won't work out for you, Linda. And of course, it makes total sense. If you are driven by always looking at what's wrong with your boyfriend, you're always going to end up having a relationship that sucks. So those were huge, huge insights based on this. And it's so funny because it was like his intervention was, do more of that. It's such a great story. But anyway, back to human frailty. So people have said to me, given all the insights you've had in life as a result of, your time and the principles, what's the best one? Well, besides realizing that I'm not broken, right? And besides realizing those two that, about happiness and how to have a good relationship. The next one would be that, of course, you're going to have human frailty. Everybody does. It's part of the package. Everybody's frail. And really honest, I swear to God, this is true. I swear to God, it's true. Human frailty is beautiful. I saw the beauty of human frailty. It's a package. In other words, we're divine and we're humanly frail. We're both. We're divine. Just like I realized when I listened to Sid that you can't separate the psychological from the soul, from the spirit. The two, you can't. And that's what, in my mind, that's what psychology does today. It's separated out the soul from this intellect from the soul, or the psychology from the soul. You can't do that. The spiritual or the soul and your psychology, they're connected. You can't separate them. So if you separate them, then you're screwed, basically. But anyway, what I realized is that it didn't matter if I had human frailty, and that was just part of the package. And it was, it's like, it's like, how you clean your house and then it gets dirty and you wonder what happened? Well, I just cleaned it and now it's dirty again. It's the same thing. It's like, I've just been in this amazing feeling and I feel so conscious and high and I really see the meaning of life. And then, and then you're like totally in this emotional reaction thinking that, life sucks and you've been done in, Well, it's both. It's both. And the thing is, there's nothing wrong with it unless you think it's real. In other words, see, human frailty is just human frailty, and it's not a problem unless you get serious about it and try to fix it. Then it becomes a problem. But if you just have it and let it go, let it come through you as an experience that you don't believe in, that you don't take seriously, who cares?
A lot more graceful that way.
See, Sid said to me, he says, the one thing that's wrong with, if there's one thing that people could fix, one thing, if they stopped reacting to their experience in life, they'd be fine. Because if they had an experience and then, see, experiences aren't cement. They're not static. They're meant to flow. Experience naturally flows. But see, we take our willpower, right? And we judge it and evaluate it and go, no, this is unacceptable. I don't want this. And we try to give it back and we try to force it away, or we try to dress it up and do something else with it, or we're embarrassed by it, or we make a big deal out of it, or we identify, this is who I am, and this is an indication that I'm broken. So we have these experiences that we react to. And if we didn't, we'd be just fine.
Yeah. And even when we react to them, we're ultimately just fine too.
Yes. But see, if we didn't react to them, we'd know we were fine. We would a lot sooner. a lot more often because we reset into a neutral mind immediately. We keep resetting.
Yeah. And that's available.
But we use our free will to keep us from resetting.
Yeah, that ability to choose, like you were saying, you with the insights, you started to get those signals like don't use my free will in that way. Don't keep going in that direction.
Don't keep going in that direction. Yeah. See, your feeling, everyone's feeling is an indicator of what they're thinking. And it doesn't matter. What matters is that you know. See, it doesn't matter where you are on the map of divinity or suffering. It matters that you know where you are on the map. Because as soon as you know, you wake up. Oh, I went too far in this direction, you know?
Yeah.
Because when you understand see, I want to say illusionary nature of thought, but that tends to be meaningless to people, illusionary nature of thought. To the extent that you understand that you don't have to take your experience or your thinking or your feelings seriously, if you have that understanding, you're protected from being destabilized by your experience. To the extent that you have the understanding that thought and consciousness just create a distortion that will, iron itself out if you leave it alone, you're protected from being destabilized. So your experience is kind of like you're on a ride in life.
And we can just let ourselves be on that ride.
Well, we're on that ride.
We're on the ride. We can use our free will to try and jump off the ride.
Yeah, we can use our free will to try and change the ride,
Never works.
But see, understanding and realizations change the ride. It does.
Yeah.
It does.
That's true. Can you say a bit more about that?
Well, see, before I met Sid, I was terrified by my moods. Like I was probably on the spectrum, on the manic depressive spectrum a bit. I don't know if I was quite diagnosable, but I might have been. And it was because I would drop. I would drop. And out of nowhere, I would just drop. And it would terrify me. So I was always like, when am I going to have my mood? When is it coming? I haven't had one in a while. So and I would literally try to run from them. We can't run from, Well, once I realized that mood was just a form of thought, my mood was just a form of thought. It had a big thought with a big feeling. I stopped being terrified by them. So I didn't care anymore that I had that I'd drop into a hole and have a bad experience for a while, because I knew it would clear. See, before I didn't know that I really did. I thought one of these times I'm going to drop and I'm going to disappear and never come back. And I realized that's not true. I'm going to disappear and never come back. It might feel that way, but I always have come back. And if it's just thought, and thought is, fluid, thought and consciousness is motion, it moves, it's going to move, and I'm going to come back. So I stopped worrying about my moods. And see, just that understanding made all the difference in the world. I stopped worrying about my moods. Isn't that funny? That's all it was. That's so simple. stopped worrying about my moods allowed me to just have them without them being a problem.
Yeah, the ride changed.
Go figure. Yeah, the ride changed.
So powerful. I want to be able to make sure we open it up for other people to ask questions. Do you feel like this is a good time, Linda? Are you open to that?
Oh, sure.
All right. So on your screen, there's a participants button. And when you click on that, a column opens up on the right side, and there's a raise hand button. And I see Claudette's already clicked that. So if you want to ask a question for Linda, please click on that button. And I'm going to unmute you, Claudette, so that you can share.
Thanks, Rohini.
Hi.
Hey, Linda. Hi. Hi.
Hi.
My question. Hi. My question is that could you talk a little bit about preferences, Linda? Because I understand, and I work with clients who have an experience and they don't like it, and but they're adamant that that's their preference. And they have a right to their preference, And sometimes I get that way myself.
Well, in other words, what do they mean by a right to their preference? What does that mean to them? Do you know?
Well, I'm guessing, because I actually haven't asked that question, because they haven't actually used that word. That was my kind of interpretation. But that, whatever the experience is that that they don't like, they're clear that they don't want that experience. Like an example would be being in a meeting with their coworkers and being talked over. So even if they offer a suggestion, they get interrupted time after time after time and get talked over. So, they don't like that experience, and they prefer not to have it.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's, I can speak to that one.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, there's two aspects to that. There's a reaction to being talked over, which people can have, which is they don't respect me, or they're rude and I don't like it. So they can get into an emotional reaction about it.
Mm-hmm.
But they also can, if they don't get an emotional reaction about it, or they get into a neutral mind about it,
Mm-hmm.
they'll have some sensible thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the sensible thinking might look like maybe, and I'm just making this up, but maybe asking everybody if there could be a rule in the meeting where they don't talk over each other, or going to one person and asking if it's possible that they could, would be able to let them finish let them finish their sentence. I mean, that they could because it would make for a better meaning.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In other words, so it would be more productive in life to not talk to each other. But you can only do that. You can only ask for that, have that sensible, more productive conversation with people from a neutral mind. You can't be in a reaction, or the person will feel a reaction and react to it.
Yeah. I actually just, as you were talking, I just saw where I missed a piece, is that she had a reaction, my client had a reaction, but then judged that reaction of, oh, that's thinking.
Oh, no. Well, it
right.
is thinking, and it's normal to have emotional reactions. And usually the problem for people is they feel like they shouldn't have emotional reactions.
Right. Yeah.
And it's
but
like,
I was going to say, she got, by saying that to herself, though, she got stuck in the emotional reaction.
Of course. Yeah. Because whatever experience you resist, you get stuck in it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you know, you have to normalize it. For everybody gets in emotional reactions. Now, some people get over them faster.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have less of them, but everybody has them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's normal. And the idea is, if you want to get over your emotional reactions, you have to allow them and not think into them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if you don't think into them, they will clear. And once they clear, your common sense, your wisdom will come up and tell you what to do about the situation, whether you need to talk to people, or you just, you know, have to find a way. Like, for example, I'm in a group where people talk over each other. I don't care. It doesn't bother me.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what I do is I go like this. I raise my hand and I go like I'm in grade school.
Yeah.
That's my solution to it.
Uh-huh.
But see, I don't care. I think it's funny, so I don't care. And it's easy for me. And they laugh at me for, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, but I don't know if I've answered you. Have I answered you?
No, you have. Yeah. Yeah. I think, you know, by normalizing it and also adding the piece, which I hadn't done, is that if you don't make anything more of it, your mind will clear and wisdom will come through. And
right now, but she may, in order to realize that, okay, because you can tell people that and it doesn't help them. But in order to realize that, she has to have a deeper understanding of thought and what thought is. You know, she's got to see thoughts having its way with her emotional thoughts having its way with her. Okay. And it's okay. It's no big deal. But she has to see more deeply and experience more deeply the role of thought.
And that is just flowing. And that happens to be, her reaction happens to be the form it took in that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People have emotional reactions. And it's really interesting because, like, for example, like I said, I don't react to people talking over me, but I react to other things. So it's not like I don't react. It's just that, see, everybody's different, you know, and it's like, so there's no truth in our emotional, oh, well, you should react to that. Anybody would think, you know, it's just like, we have the reactions we have. And the idea is just to jump them.
Yeah.
But to jump them, you have to understand more deeply, realize, understand, not from here, but from here, the role of thought that it takes in your life. Now you can, you know, to the extent that you understand the role of thought and how it takes form in your life, you have that conversation. That's your grounding. And you talk from your experience. See, for example, like I'll use this one experience that I had that was so tangible. And it's so funny. Honest to God, my urge for Haagen-Dazs ice cream controlled me at one point in my life. After I met Sid. So when I had the urge for Haagen-Dazs ice cream, it was so big and so strong that I just get up and go to the store and get it. Even if it wasn't convenient. Okay. Well, I kind of got tired of it and I wanted to lose weight, and I was like, I don't like this. I don't like this, the fact that it controls me and that, well, at one point, you know, after I said, I don't like this, I don't like that it controls me. But I didn't have anything on it. You know, it was like, it wasn't desperate about it. I just thought, why can't it be different? I got puzzled, basically. I got curious about it. And then I had the thought, maybe urge isn't an entity. Maybe urge is just a big thought that's fooling me. So I thought the next time I had the urge, and it was like driving me to get up out of my chair to go to Safeway, I sat on my hands and I wouldn't get out of the chair. And I had this unbelievably strong feeling, get up, go get the ice cream, eat it. And I'm like, nope. And I sat there with all of these sensations and feelings that were really powerful. And I didn't act on it. And all of a sudden it evaporated. And I went, no, I was right. It was a thought. And that was the end of it. I didn't have to do it anymore. But see, now, to me, I saw urge as thought. I went, I'll be darned. Urge is thought too. And I thought it was something other than thought. Go figure. See, but you can get puzzled by your experience because you think your experience is an exception. Oh, this is an exception. This isn't thought.
Right. Yeah.
But you can get puzzled. Maybe this is thought too.
Yeah. That's actually lovely,
But see, you can do it for yourself and deepen your own grounding, deepen your understanding of the role of thought, and use those examples, those practical examples, very practical, well, not practical, but ordinary examples of, hey, this urge, this feeling ran me. I didn't think it was thought. I thought it was something important.
Yeah, right. Meant something. Yeah. Because I see what she thinks, even though we've talked about this. For her, it means something about her worth, about her value.
Okay, well then need to go to a deeper conversation about, like, and what I do with people when they have, their thinking equals their value, it's that they don't realize their mental health, that they sit in mental health and don't know it. They don't realize that they are pure consciousness. And then they take negative thinking, like, oh, and this is what I mean by negative thinking. Oh, because I have this experience, I'm broken. No, that's just thought. Everyone lives in pure consciousness, and then they wrap it in negative thought and think they're broken. That's all that's happening. They see the thought and they don't realize the pure consciousness. They are pure consciousness, and they take negative thought and that says something wrong with you because you have this reaction. There's nothing wrong with her. She's just having a broken thought. It's not that she's broken. She's actually producing a broken thought from the principle of thought in her. So she is the principle of thought, producing a broken thought. Well, she's the one that mothered it. And then she believes in what she mothered. That's all. But she doesn't have to. Just like I didn't have to believe in an urge for Haagen-Dazs ice cream, she doesn't have to really believe in the thought that there's something wrong with her, that she has a crabgrass, ordinary human experience of reactivity.
Yeah.
See? So she has to realize her own mental health.
Thank you, Claudette. We have a couple of other questions if you have some time.
Yeah.
Thanks. Lori, let me unmute you. Lori Holmes?
Hi, Linda.
Hi.
Hi, Rohini.
Hello.
I don't know if you're aware of what happened to me in the last 2 weeks, but I've been in the hospital, and I had a very unique experience of being paralyzed.
Whoa.
Yeah. Both my arms and legs coming out of a routine colonoscopy and endoscopy. But what I wanted to speak to here, and I don't know if it's so much of a question, but what I noticed about the role of thought while in this state that I could not control, that my limbs and legs would not move, and I would feel things that I couldn't, like would come by and pinch me and do all these things to me that I had no control over. But I did notice within the role of thought how I would cycle in and out of my ability to like stay calm and no matter what circumstance I was in, or be frustrated that I couldn't move something when I wanted to, or when I would feel an itch in my head because of hair or whatever, that I would remember, oh yeah, I can't touch it, and it would go away. So was the itch ever there? It's that kind of that. Because when I was not able to do anything to fix whatever it was that I thought was going on, the recognition that I wasn't able to take care of it would have the whole thing disappear.
Wow. That's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah. So that was like thought in real time. You can't get out of it when you're having that going on. It's like, it was like
you couldn't do anything. You just had to wait for it to pass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so the more that I got comfortable being uncomfortable, like I shared in a video I did today about being inside an MRI machine, which was like being in a casket, totally immovable, because they had a C thing around my neck, a form over my face. My arms and legs wouldn't move. My head couldn't move, so I basically couldn't move. And I was hearing all this really loud noise in my head. So there was nowhere I could go. I couldn't escape it. I couldn't get away from it. But a very interesting thing happened as I cycled back into the understanding of how it works. I got into that state of euphoria where I was okay with all of it. And the sound that was deafening sounded like music at one point. And I was laughing and enjoying it. And the next moment I was back in the pain going, this sucks. I want to get out of here. I hate it. Da, 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 da. And then I'd cycle back into, oh, it's all right. And I really hit the place of, if I die, I'm okay. If I live, I'm okay. If I live as a quadriplegic, I'm okay. It was like I just hit that place of totally surrendering to all of it, because I was in control of none of it.
That's beautiful, Lori. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that with all of us.
But it was just what you said, Linda, really had me be more even aware of what was going on. And so I want to thank you for that.
Wow.
Thanks, Lori. I'm going to put you back on mute. We have one more hand raised. Can we take that last one, Linda?
Yeah.
All right, Linda Hope, I'm going to unmute you. Hang on a sec. There we go. You should be unmuted.
Hi, Linda and Rohini. Nice to meet you. Hi. My question is, and I'll try and make it quick because I know we're under time here. Does it sometimes feel like mind can fail a person? Just a tiny quick backstory. I'm a massage therapist. I've been doing it for 26 years. And the last 6 years, I've been struggling with panic attacks at work. It's been very challenging because it's really hard to get through doing a massage when you're having a panic attack. I mean, just the logistics of it. And because of that, work has gotten slow, which adds to my stress or my thinking of stress. And so I think I too have a pretty good intellectual understanding of the 3 principles, which might be holding me back a little bit because my panic attacks don't seem to be getting any better. I do sort of see it in other areas of my life, but I can't seem to have it where I want it to be. And so even in the quiet moments, and I get that. I get where that is. I get that feeling. I've had that feeling. I know the quiet mind. And even when I just let that be, no answers really come to me. Like I'm thinking, should I be
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
I'm curious, okay? How is it and this may sound like a stupid question, but I'm going to ask. I ask stupid questions. I don't care. I don't mind asking. How is it a problem for you that you have panic attacks?
Yeah,
In
that's not a stupid question, because people ask me that all the time. Why can't I just accept that and go through it?
I'm not asking how come you can't accept it. I'm not asking that. I'm asking, in your experience, how is it a problem for you in the moment that you're having it? Not moment, but in the moments that you're having it, how's it a problem?
It is actually a bit of a problem, because it's hard to do the job when your hands are shaking and you're just out of your mind and you can't focus on the work itself. I know that I'm probably not doing the best job that I could be doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like there is some actual stuff going on there.
I can see that would be a problem. Is there any other way in which I mean, I can see where it would be a problem if you're gets in the way of, massaging someone and you're right in the middle of your job. That could be a problem. Is it any other way in which it's a problem besides that?
Yeah, I just don't like it. but I guess
what is it that you don't like?
The feeling, the anxious, just that feeling. Everybody knows what a panic attack feels like. It doesn't feel good. You're just out of your head. And but the thing is, I've had them driving before and I can just go through them. I think it's because I feel like there's a lot at stake when I have them at work. And I'm thinking about changing careers as a result now. And that's
great. What's at stake because this is really interesting. I know I've had panic attacks, so I know what they are. Okay. And it's very cool that you say that you can drive with them and you just go through them. That's very cool. Now, how come you can't just do that at work, go through them?
I do because I have to.
Yeah.
I do it, but it is affecting my job and I dread working.
How does it affect your driving?
No. Well, no. But but with the driving, there is an option. I can pull over. If I had to, I don't, but I could. But with work, I got to finish it. I got to do it. I'm stuck. I'm trapped.
Well, how come, now I'm just curious, how come you couldn't just, okay, first of all, I'm going to ask you another question, and then I'm going to ask you the one I want to ask you, which is, the first question I want to ask you is, are you a good masseuse? Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
So you people like you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, how come you can't pull over when you're in your massage? I mean, why can't you take a moment? Like you would if you were driving, why couldn't you take a moment?
Do you mean just stop working?
And say you had to go to the bathroom.
I can't. If every time a person came in and I had to go to the bathroom in the middle of their massage, I don't think they would be very happy with me with that if it was always happening. It's always happening, so.
Well, how do you know that they would be unhappy if you asked them? In other words, if you're a good masseuse and you have a clientele, they're not going to ultimately mind you taking a break for a few minutes.
Well, sometimes the panic attacks go on for a lot longer than a few minutes, but maybe if I had a few minutes, it could have a chance to pass.
Now, what if you told them that you had panic attacks and that you had to take
No, I can't. Professionally, I cannot. I've already talked to my psychiatrist and the board of massage therapists. I cannot tell people that I have panic attacks because it changes the dynamic of the relationship, of the professional relationship. So yeah, I would like to tell them, actually. It would take pressure off, but I can't say anything.
Yeah. Well, I bet you anything, if you looked, you could come up with a creative idea about how to take a break.
Yeah. Mine doesn't come up with anything for me on that one, because I have been thinking about so many ways of trying to figure this one out. But
well, here's the thing. It's like, I think that when mine doesn't come up with answers, it's because you have too much on it. Not just you, but
yeah.
everybody. If you have too much on something, do you know what I mean by too much on it?
Yes.
If you have too much on it, you just don't get any answers.
Yeah.
And it's like, really, it's like when I was working with this guy. He couldn't go to work because of his panic attacks. So he was housebound, and so he came to me because his employer was getting upset about him working at home. And I said to him, well, why don't, tell me about your panic attacks. He says, well, every time I go out of the house, I have a panic attack. And I said, well, what happens? He says, well, I don't know. He said, I think I have a chemical problem. And I said, well, I don't think you have a chemical problem until you have the anxiety attack. I don't think you have a chemical problem pre-anxiety. And he says, well, what do you mean? I said, well, like, I've had panic attacks. And in my experience, all panic attacks are an acceleration of worry. It's just a cumulative mass of worried thinking, a critical mass of worried thinking. In other words, you start revving up, and then you get to this critical mass of thinking. And then that thinking, because thought and your body are connected, that amount of worried thinking hits your adrenals. And when it hits your adrenals, it's like, it's a shit show. Psychologically and physically, it's just a shit show. I mean, it's like you just go crazy with all these sensations and thoughts. And like when I had a panic attack, and I thought I was possessed because it was so foreign. I thought, and while I'm having the panic attack, I'm thinking, this is why they burned people in the Middle Ages, because a panic attack can make you think you're possessed. So you go around telling people you're possessed, and then they burn you at the stake. So this is what I'm thinking while I'm having a panic attack. It's just the anatomy of a panic attack. It's just you get too worried, it hits your adrenals, and then you have to wait for the adrenaline to clear. And so he said to me, are you sure that's all it is? I said, in my mind. So then he goes out, and it occurs to him, he tells me this later, it occurs to him to start breathing. He says, I went outside and I started to have a panic attack. I started breathing. And he said, as I started breathing, I could feel my panic attack soften. He says, and then I got really good at it. Got really good at knowing when to breathe and how to breathe. Now I don't have anxiety attacks anymore. It was all about the breathing. Now this is just him. Okay, it may not be about breathing for you. I don't know. But what happened is that when there was something stuck in his mind about the fact that he was going to have anxiety attacks because he had the wrong chemistry. And when he questioned that and kind of put that down and went, oh, it's not about, there's nothing wrong with me chemically. it's just worry that hits my adrenals. He thought about it and he thought, well, if it's just worry, if I breathe, I can affect the sensation of worry. Now, see, there's something that you need to see about, I don't know what it is that you need to see about panic attacks, but if there's something you need to see that's going to give you the wiggle room to have a way for yourself. And I don't know if that's catching anxiety early. I don't know if it's understanding what worry is. But there's something that you need to. Are you thinking while I'm talking? Yeah. Is you're not going to learn anything if you think while I'm talking.
That's my problem. Yeah.
Well, listen, why don't you work with somebody? Where do you live?
Vancouver, British Columbia.
Oh, you live right near me.
Oh. Where are you?
LaConner.
Okay. Well, that's not really next door, but okay.
But the thing is, why don't you work with a principle-based practitioner who will help you understand,
Finances. It's a stress.
Well, why don't we connect and we'll email, and then we'll see what we can work out in terms of support and finding someone that's able to do something pro bono. So why don't, if you put your email in the chat, then I'll connect with you and we'll go from there. Okay.
Thanks. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for everybody being on the call today, for your participation. And Linda, especially thank you to you for being here.
Hey, thank you for doing this. This is great. Really good.
Yeah, thank you.
So thank you for setting this up, Rohini.
Oh, you're welcome, really for everybody. And Linda, do you want to mention any of the things you have coming up in LaConner?
Oh, we have a what do you call it? It's not a training, but a conference where in September, I think it's September, where we're going to work with a couple. For those of you that do couple counseling.
Sorry, I don't know. Someone's not muted. If anybody's not muted, if you could mute, that would be great, because I can't find you. Barbara, here we go. There we go. Go ahead.
In LaConner, we're going to have an event where George and I will work with a couple in front of the room, and there'll be participants in the room watching, for those of you that work with couples.
I was there last year and it was amazing. I learned so much. And as Angus and I love working with couples, it was really beneficial. And then in February every year, you have the professional training. It is a wonderful training too. So 2 very good reasons to visit LaConner. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I'm going to unmute everyone so you can all say thank you and goodbye.